You're listening to Raising the Bets, a family podcast of pirates and penguins. We're a Catholic family raising 5 kids outside of Boston, sharing the joys and challenges of marriage, homeschool, adventures near and far, making sense of the world, making sense of this introduction, and trying to get somewhere with this podcast. I'm Dom Bettinelli.
And I'm Melanie Bettinelli.
As you may have heard, I have not improved the opening since last week.
Oops,
but
we got distracted.
Yes, well, it's been a busy week. We had that holiday right in the middle of it. One programming note is just, I don't know that it really matters so much to the listener because they're hearing this the same day that they've been hearing the previous 5 episodes. But we were recording these on Friday night. That was the night we figured we had the best chance of an uninterrupted ability to do some recording. But we've moved it to Sunday night because we've been wanting to talk about what, Sunday and Mass and what stuff we may have heard at Mass or about the readings and stuff. But by the time it gets to Friday, we've forgotten.
My memory doesn't last that long.
Yes. So if we're lucky, we'll remember this today's Mass readings and that sort of thing. But so we've moved that to Friday tonight. The other thing I want to say is, as we talk about what's been happening this past week, is this is not going to become what's been ailing our family podcast this week. That's just, oh my gosh, every week it's something new.
Yeah, well, if life would stop throwing us ailments, that would help.
Yes. It's the summer. So, okay, so this is the thing. So this was the 4th of July was this past week, Independence Day, which we always look forward to every year because...
Just to forestall any worries, nobody got burned with fireworks.
No fireworks, no sparklers, no. Hot as the sun fireworks, no... This is, after all, outside of Boston where fireworks are illegal and we,
Not that stops the neighbors.
Not that it stops the neighbors. You may, in fact, hear in the middle of this podcast our neighbors shooting off fireworks still, even though it is July 7th. Anyway, 4th of July is a big deal in my family. With my brother. My brother John throws a huge 4th of July party every year. He has a pool and a big yard and 6 kids, and he and his wife and their kids have lots of friends, and they always invite massive amounts of people to the party. It's huge. Some years bigger than others, but there have been as many as 100 people.
Yeah.
At this party, 50 kids in and around the pool, and he's been doing it every year ever since we've been together, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much. We were looking at pictures of past years, and it goes back all the way, and it never rains on his party. Never, because how the holiday moves around a bit, and sometimes he'll have the party on the 3rd or the 5th or whatever, because it's the more convenient day of a holiday weekend or something like that. But he has never, I thought I turned that volume off, he has never had it rain on his party. It is remarkable. And in fact, I said to him, someday in the future, when inevitably our time comes and he passes on, may it be many years from now, someday he'll pass on, and the very next 4th of July it will rain. I predict it now. I'm now predicting it. But none of us. I will probably be dead before he is, and I won't be able to gloat about my being right about it. So the 4th of July party, big pool party, lots of food, tons of. They've got 3 grills and a smoker run in. Everyone brings some stuff. It's a lot of fun.
It's like a big potluck.
And it usually ends with a Jello eating contest. First kids, then adults. Who is it always wins every year? Is it Dan Allahan?
Yeah.
Dan always wins every year. He has a remarkable ability to slurp up Jello. So
the Jello eating contest, for those who don't know, everybody gets a styrofoam bowl with one of those little cups of Jello in it.
A cup's worth. It's like you
can buy the pre-made Jello cups, like one of those dumped into it, those styrofoam bowl, and then everybody kneels around these benches,
with hands behind your back,
and you have to consume your entire plate of Jello.
Hands free.
No touching the bowl allowed.
Except with your face.
Right. And the first one to finish every single drop, nothing left in your mouth, wins.
Yes. And Dan, like, it is remarkable. I mean, that guy he's like a human vacuum. It's like ready, set, go, done. Like, whoa, hey, where'd that go? It was just there.
Practice.
He has a very strict training regimen of Jello eating beforehand.
But 1 year, Isabella actually came in second in the kids contest.
In her
age category.
Age class, yes. I mean, again, there's like 50 kids at these parties, so they have to have multiple rounds of kids eating Jello. It's remarkable. But after the Jello, things get, we get more serious, and we have usually a reading of the Declaration of Independence, which is pretty cool. Although, have you read the Declaration of Independence, lady? It's long.
Usually they do sort of a round robin where a bunch of the older kids take turns reading chunks.
Yes,
because it's too long for any one person.
It is a long document. And
we don't do the short version.
Yes, the abridged version, like we do with the gospel at mass. But that's
for the short form. Read only the stuff in bracket.
we have 2 inalienable rights, not 3 in the short form. So, and then we have a rosary, a group rosary, and I mean it's so nice.
Usually around the fire pit.
Around the fire pit. So there's a fire. A bonfire, and then all these families, all these kids, and different kids will will take a different set of the decades, and it's so nice. And what an awesome way to spend Independence Day, praying for your country, and then just celebrating by having joy.
But this year we didn't get to do that.
Things were curtailed.
So we woke up on Thursday morning at about 6:00. And Ben was in our room saying, my stomach hurts and I don't feel good. My head hurts. And my first thought was, oh no, am I going to have to stay home and miss the party?
Right. Because if it's just Ben who's sick, then our practice is the one child stays with one parent and the other parent takes the others. And so the others can at least have some part of the day.
But we gave him some ibuprofen and he perked up.
And he was intent on going.
He really, really wanted to go. He was very distressed at the idea of missing the party. So we figured if he perks up and he feels better, then we'll probably end up going. And we did. But knowing that we probably wouldn't get to stay the whole time. Right.
So yeah, he got some Tylenol, some ibuprofen. I mean, he had a temp. He had a bit of a temp that morning, right? And
I don't know if he had a temp before we left, but
okay. Well, yeah, but his stomach certainly was not doing well. But when we got there, they had fun. We were there for several hours. I mean, I got to say, we were there for about the usual amount of time we would stay if we were just going over swimming, right?
Yeah, I think we were there till about 5, but
about 4:30. So we got there like at what, 1? So around 4:30, I think he was starting to not feel so good again.
He changed out of his swimsuit, and then he ended up huddled on the couch in the living room next to Grandma, who was watching Wimbledon.
Or something.
Or sleeping in front of Wimbledon, really.
Yes, nodding at Wimbledon.
So, and he, fairly quickly, he said, I don't feel good. I want to go home. And of course, it took us like an hour to round up everybody and get the last round of cookies and hot dogs.
And to track down all of our belongings that get scattered everywhere and amidst 100 other people's belongings.
And in the middle of it, like Lucy accidentally got trapped in the bathroom and nobody could hear her over the television.
Poor Lucy.
I finally tracked her down and she was sitting on the toilet crying, just like, I can't open the door.
The door sticks because of the humidity or whatever. The door sticks and she's just wee and she's too small to open it. I don't know if she's getting weaker or something and smaller, but like she's having trouble with doors lately. But yeah,
it was kind of sad.
It was kind of sad. But we packed them all up. We got in the car. We went home. We gave him some more. Tylenol, ibuprofen. He felt a little better, but
he kind of huddled on the couch and went to sleep for a while.
Yeah,
and then perked up long enough to walk down the street and watch some of the neighbors setting off some bottle rockets.
Yeah, we don't get to go to big fireworks with our kids. It's because of the party and the timing. It just has been difficult. But we have neighbors who sort of big fireworks over their houses. And in fact, I think I'll try to include one of those pictures as the the episode art for this episode, so you can see how big that is. I mean, it's significant.
And Ben said it's not 4th of July unless I get to see at least a little bit of fireworks. So we were glad that he perked up long enough to go outside and see a couple of good shots.
But so then Friday rolls around and he's not doing better.
Yeah, his tempo's back up 103, and he was miserable. And to top it all off, not only was he running a fever and kind of feeling headachy and shivery, cold and chills, but on Wednesday night, he had this gigantic goose egg on his head.
Yeah, the day before Independence Day, yeah.
And he did not remember hitting his head on anything.
That's troublesome.
Right. So the combination of weird headache and chills and fever that wasn't really going down and the bump on his head made me want to finally call the doctor.
Yeah. And so what, we end up getting a pediatrician appointment right away on the Friday of the 5th, the Friday between Independence Day and that weekend, Saturday. So you don't expect to get anybody.
And she actually got us in at 5:00 p.m.
Right. Because we found out the pediatrician is open till 8:00 on weeknights. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And on weekends they're open.
I didn't actually know that they were open that late. I just called to see if they thought I should maybe take him to urgent care or something. And they said, yeah, you can just go ahead and bring him in. The doctor's here tonight.
And I was like, score. We don't have to pay that emergency room $150 deductible. Woo! Copay.
And then the doctor was concerned enough about the bump on his head and
sent him to the ER.
Sent him to the ER, where the ER doctor decided
$150.
The ER doctor decided after administering more Tylenol and seeing him perk up that she didn't think he actually needed any scans of his head, because she ran through the neurological tests and stuff and said, he looks like he's probably okay. Why don't you just go home and see if he gets better?
So yet another $150 Tylenol.
Okay, but we weren't going to talk about it at such length.
It's okay. All right. So we'll move on from that. So, but the good news is Saturday dawned. Ben was fine. He was in good spirits, and he's feeling fine now. Still got the bump on his head. It's getting better, but he doesn't have a fever or anything like that.
He
so
keeps
he's fine.
whacking it against stuff again.
He's 10.
Yeah.
In fact, he'll be 10. Probably the day that this is out. His birthday is the 9th. So I think this releases on the 9th. And so he'll be 10 years old. Happy birthday, Ben. And we'll talk all about that on our next episode. But yeah. So that was our 4th celebration. Yay! Not feeling good. Boo. So let's talk about what we've been eating. We've had some interesting stuff that we've been cooking this past week. I made thunder tacos. Which, what was the Patricia Polacco?
Patricia Polacco wrote a children's book called Thunder Cake, and it's about a little girl who's scared of thunderstorms, and she's visiting her grandma, and her grandmother, old Russian babushka type, tells her that they have to collect all the ingredients to make thunder cake, and so they go out to the hen house and they go out to the garden before the storm arrives.
They can hear in the distance.
And every time the little girl hears the thunder, her grandmother tells her to count to see how far away the storm is to make sure that they're going to have time to finish their cake. And the little girl's scared of the hen, but she goes into the hen house and collects the eggs anyway. And she's scared of heights, but she climbs up the trellis to pick some tomatoes anyway. And she's scared of the dark, but she goes into the storage shed.
This is a weird cake, by the way.
Yeah.
It's got tomatoes in it.
It's a chocolate cake with ripe tomatoes in it. It's very strange. But anyway, they go back home and they mix up the cake and they get it in the oven before the storm hits, so they're good and safe.
Right.
And then the grandma tells her, "Well, you aren't scared because you to me you seem pretty brave because you dared the hen house and you dared the scary storage shed and you dared the heights and you managed to deal with the storm too." So it's a sweet story.
It is, and our kids did enjoy that. And if you go online, you can actually find the thunder cake recipe. It is online, but. Besides that, so thunder tacos. I had been wanting to make this tacos al carbone recipe that I saw in Cooks Illustrated. Was it? I think it was Cooks Illustrated, and we had all the ingredients. So we had this, the flank steak and all this sort of stuff. And then we saw that the forecast was that there was thunderstorms were coming that afternoon, and I knew I could, if I could get the grill started in time, I could get it just under the wire. And in fact, if I had to, I could put the grill under the gazebo, the solarium roof. I don't know what to call that.
Awning?
It's not really
Cabana?
an awning. It's a cabana. Let's call it a cabana. It makes it sound like we're in Miami. But I could move it under there and be a little sheltered from rain. So the storm was pretty far off, but we could hear the thunder while we were grilling it. But so it was steak, flank steak, and then I also skewered up some cherry tomatoes and I charred up some red pepper, some jalapenos. Charred up some scallions. It has a charred scallion jalapeno sauce salsa that goes with it. It was really good. And what was it? There was another vegetable that onions. Yes, and so I think it came out pretty good.
It needed some tweaking. I think that I wasn't a huge fan of the scallion salsa, honestly.
Yeah, that could have used some tweaking to it. I was a little dubious about charring the scallions. Maybe I have some ideas and some ways to improve that. So that was that meal. So that was a pretty good meal. So although that wasn't 100% meal, was it?
No.
The kids weren't as enthused about it. So back to the drawing board on that one. But for the Independence Day, you brought your usual that my sister-in-law Patty loves, your dish that you often bring, the mango salsa. But you did something different this year.
Right. Well, see, the sad fact is that I'm allergic not to mangoes themselves, but
not
to something
eating them.
Right. I can eat them fine, but there's something in the skin that irritates my skin, and so I usually have you cut them up.
Yeah, which is not fun for me.
Right. So, but I had a brainstorm because we had some frozen mango in the freezer that I was making kids smoothies out of, and I thought, what if I just chopped up some of the frozen mango and then let it, defrost, and then use that to build my mango salsa around. And so I did it, and it turned out better.
Yeah, I mean, the frozen stuff is sweeter because it's a little mushier and I think that releases some of the.
It probably also
sugars,
used slightly riper, like more consistently ripe mangoes.
Probably.
Anyway, it was really good.
But also by being frozen, you don't have to worry about it getting warm on the way there. It's self-cooling.
Yeah.
So that was good. I think that was usually a hit. People generally like that. And the other really cool thing we made this week was the grilled chicken breasts. You came up with a really good marinade for the grilled chicken breasts.
It was lime and soy sauce and honey and garlic.
Garlic powder, probably.
Probably, yeah. It was really simple.
Yeah, but really tasty. So and it's chicken breasts are tricky to grill without drying them out. I do the indirect method and keep it on the. I move only half of the grill has coals under it, and I keep the chicken on the non-coal side of it with the thick part facing toward the coals.
Yeah, I marinated them for a couple of hours too. So
yeah,
that
gets them. Yeah, that gives them the moisture. That brines it up a little bit.
And then we serve them with salads for us. Just chopped up on a grilled chicken salad.
Yeah.
And then because the kids aren't all universally salad fans, I made them some rice.
We did the rice bowl thing again.
Yeah, and with lots of vegetables. So they ended up with sort of something that had enough vegetables in it that it wasn't quite a salad, but it wasn't quite just chicken on top of rice either.
Right. Yeah, I think we're onto something here. So that's a good thing. And then today you made your pulled pork, but you did something a little differently this time.
So I had a gigantic pork roast. It was like a good 5.5 pound roast. I chopped it up and I made a rub on it. Just brown sugar, garlic powder, paprika, pepper, salt, sort of basic rub. And then I made it in my Instant Pot, which I love for pulled pork because it doesn't take all day, just a couple hours in the Instant Pot. And I threw the chunks of meat into brown a little bit, but
frozen, straight up frozen. We've talked about this before, I guess.
Frozen chunks of meat in the Instant Pot on the saute setting just to get them a little bit browned. And then I poured in some cola syrup.
Yes, we talked about that one, how it was given to us as a coughing, upset stomach remedy.
Anyway, and then just, pop the lid on, cook it for 2 hours. Then you You pull it out. And what I like to do is I like to shred the pork in a big old roasting pan and stick it under the broiler with a bunch of the juices. And I do it, broil for 5 minutes, then stir and add some more of the pot juices, then broil for 5 minutes and stir and add some more of the pot juices. And as that cola caramelizes, it gets really thick and crusty and black.
Oh, it's like mahogany colored. It was so deeply rich.
Right. It's kind
flavored.
It's kind of sweet and
it doesn't taste like Coke. It's not like you poured a Coke in your pork.
Right. But it's sweet.
It's sweet caramelized barbecue essentially.
And then at the end, I squeezed a lime on top just to give it a little bit of
the acidity.
Yeah,
it cut a little bit of the richness. It was really good. So so I made it into sort of like a banh mi.
Yeah, some of us had sandwiches. Some people just poured some barbecue sauce on their plates and kind of dipped the meat into that.
Anthony has discovered the joy of mixing barbecue sauce with A1, and he loves that. And I have to be honest, it ain't bad. It's actually pretty inspired.
Yeah, Ben's not usually a fan of the pulled pork, but this one he had a good bit of it. He said it tasted kind of like a pot roast, which he likes.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I piled it on a roll with cucumber, cilantro.
I think he doesn't like it when I use vinegar in the.
Oh right, you didn't put any vinegar in this time. Yep. So it was good. So some good meals, and we'll see what's coming up this week. We don't have anything. I don't think we have anything specifically planned.
I have no idea.
You'll know when we know. So that's what we've been eating. In addition to all the amazing food at the 4th of July party, which last year John smoked 40 pounds of brisket. This year he smoked some salmon, which was really good. So I have to give him props for that. So what's been entertaining us? So I'll go first. I finished the new Tom Clancy novel, Enemy Contact. Now, of course, Tom Clancy passed away a few years ago, so they've had some new guys take over the characters in the novels. And I have to say, this one was okay. It was interesting.
Is this Jack Ryan? Or is some other character?
It's Jack Ryan is the president, and Jack Ryan Jr., his son, is now a spy.
Jack Ryan's president? That's kind of cool.
Yes, that happened a while ago in real life, not in the book terms, of course.
Yeah, I really only know the first couple of, and I've never read the books. I just know them from the movies, like Hunt for Red October and.
Yeah. So, Hunt for Red October, Clear and Present Danger. What was the other movie? Patriot Games.
Patriot Games. I saw that one.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably
with Sean Bean. He dies in that one. Because it's Sean Bean.
I probably really only have seen those three.
Yeah, there was one with Ben Affleck, and I think and then of course there's the young Jack Ryan where Chris Pine played him.
I missed that.
And then there's the Amazon series, the new Amazon series where John Krasinski from The Office, he played Jim in The Office. He's Jack Ryan.
Wait, Jim? As Jack Ryan?
Yeah.
Those are two very different characters.
Well, I mean, it's sort of like when the other Chris Pratt, went from being that guy on Parks and Rec, the doughy, dumb guy, to being action hero.
Yeah.
It happened. And I mean, Krasinski, Father Chip and I did an episode of Secrets of Movies and TV Shows on the Amazon's Jack Ryan, and we both really liked it. So I'm looking forward to another season. But so the book, it has, I won't go into all the details of the backstory for how it all works, but it was very interesting that the young Jack Ryan, Jack Jr., was in Poland and was working with a Polish law enforcement officer, and she's very Catholic. And I thought it was very interesting they played that, and she was a bit of a romantic interest, but there was no salacious stuff. It was, people get shot and die, and there's violence in it because, it's a spy novel, so there's violence. But there was no salacious stuff between, like, and I feel like the current writers, they've gone through a couple different writers. The current writer is trying to respect the way that Tom Clancy wrote the Jack Ryan characters as a moral character, a guy whose faith is relatively important to him. He's not on his knees saying the rosary every day, but he's playing that in the young character. So the book had some issues. I can't just gloss over that. There were some things about the book I didn't like, but it was overall a good continuation of the series. So there's that. I think I talked about Chernobyl series last time on last episode. Still watching that. I watched another episode or two of that. It's still amazing and disturbing at the same time, and just mind blowing. Really good. Really, really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the big thing that dropped this week was Stranger Things season 3. And I won't spoil it, obviously. You all, I hate when people spoil it. And frankly, all the online websites talking about it are trying to spoil it in the headlines. Really driving me crazy. But it certainly, it takes place a couple years now after the first one. And where the kids in the first one were cute and, endearing, they're now full-on teenagers. And frankly, I find some of them annoying. Like less endearing, kind of stupid, like why are you an idiot? Oh yeah, you're a teenager. Because this was me. I was maybe a year or two older than most of them in 1980. I think it's 84. No, actually, I think I was the same age as they are. I think they're my age. If it's 1984,
so it's a little uncomfortably close to real life.
It is and it isn't. I'm like, that's just not how people would have done it. But well, yeah, that would have been me. That would have been what I would have liked to be. But in some cases, it just reminds me of kids I went to school with, and I'm like, that's really, they were annoying then, and they're still annoying now. So the one thing I've only got a couple episodes left in the season. It's a short season, and it feels like it moved too fast. But the last thing I want to say about it is Hopper is the best. Chief Hopper is awesome. I even have the mug you gave me for, was it Father's Day? Christmas. It's a coffee mug and it says, "Mornings are for coffee and contemplation."
I thought it was your birthday.
Could have been. Either way.
Anyway, I unfortunately sort of missed the boat on the Stranger Things phenomenon, and I'm way too far behind to even want to catch up.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's probably cool, just I can't keep up.
So you haven't been watching TV still? Have you been watching anything? Like last time, you kind of said you haven't been really in the mood to watch anything.
I watched the season 5 of Shetland.
Oh.
It's
how are the subtitles on that?
No subtitles.
He's dead.
I like Shetland. So it's a detective story, but
British.
it's set in the Shetland Islands off of Scotland, like north of Scotland. And this season's story arc was about human trafficking. There's a young girl from, I think, Nigeria who's been trafficked into Shetland, and she's trying to escape, and her mother's trying to find her, and dead bodies keep popping up, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. I like the detective. His name is, and now I'm blanking on his name.
Oh.
Blah, 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 blah.
And I'm quickly Googling Shetland BBC.
It's Spanish, and that's what's kind of funny, because he's not at all,
Jimmy Perez.
Except they say Perez instead of Perez.
Perez, right.
Perez. He has some ancestor, great grandfather or grandfather or something, who was a Spanish mariner who was
in the Spanish Armada.
I don't think it's that far back. Anyway, so he's a single dad. His daughter in the first episode, I think, was a high school student. Now she's off in college. And he's actually her stepfather, and her mom died sometime before the series started. And so her biological father is sort of in the picture, but he's kind of feckless. And so there's these sort of two dad situation, both kind of not sure what to do with this teenage girl as she's heading off into the world. And so that's kind of the fun interpersonal story. And really, I love the scenery and the accents. The Scottish accents are great. And I'm a sucker for detective stories.
Yeah, British TV fascinates me. Like the first season of Shetland was 2 episodes. It was like the 2-parter.
Right. It was
like a mini series. It was one day and then the next day, 2 parts of the same story.
Yeah, and it was based on a novel. They were based on some novels, and I think from what I read, the novelist really just she had a one-off novel and she didn't never intended it to become a series, and then it became popular enough that she ended up writing several books. And I'm not even sure if the last episode was based on one of her books or if they've just taken the characters and run with them.
Well, it looks like the first 2 seasons were based on the books, because the second season was three stories, 3 two-parters. And then the third season is just independent episodes, and the fourth season was that way, and that was 6 episodes, 6 episodes, and 6 episodes. So my guess is the first 2 seasons represented the books, and then they just started making stuff up wholesale after that.
Yeah. It's fun. I mean, as a police procedural, it's interesting because Scottish law and procedure is very different. I mean, it's almost as different from the British as the British is from the American, if you can follow that. Like, it's not the same sort of setup as like Broadchurch, for instance.
Right.
So it's kind of fun. And of course, the Shetland Islands are sort of the boonies of Scotland. And so it's sort of the equivalent of being like out in Montana or somewhere, you know, kind of out in the nowheresville. They have one big city and a bunch of small farms, and a lot of the episodes have to do with the offshore oil rigs and the fishing. And
so if you want to watch it, the way we watched it, we have BritBox.com. It's a streaming service that airs British TV.
I think some of the first seasons are also on Amazon Prime.
Seasons 1 to 3 are available on Amazon, but you have to buy them by the episode or by the season. It's not part of the Prime streaming.
Oh, okay.
So
I think they were on Prime for a short time. Yes. I did watch them originally on Prime.
Yeah, and then they used to be on Netflix, and then Netflix has dropped it. So, but yeah, it's if you want to watch it, BritBox is great, especially if you like classic Doctor Who. They have all the classic Doctor Who there, all that's available anyway. That hasn't been lost in the depths of time. But yeah, I like it. If you like British TV, BritBox is a good thing to have. So, and then, but what have you been reading too?
So the last couple of days, I did a binge read. Holiday weekend, so we weren't going anywhere, and I downloaded Neil Stephenson's Reamed. I'm not actually sure how to pronounce the title because it's Reamde instead of ed.
Reamed.
Reamde. So in the novel, Reamed is actually the name of a computer virus. And it looks like the Chinese hacker who created the virus maybe did a typo for README.
README.
So anyway, it's a great action-packed novel, not short, like Stevenson's novels don't tend to be. And it's sort of techno-thriller. It's got computer hackers, a massive multiplayer online game, crazy Russian mobsters. A lot of it takes place in China, and then in the backwoods of Idaho and British Columbia. Like they're going across the American-Canadian border. Oh, and crazy Muslim terrorists.
Okay, so a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it was a fun ride.
You finished it?
I just finished it.
Neil Stephenson novels are not like, quick reads. You finished this in the weekend?
Yeah, pretty much. Did I do anything else this weekend?
No.
Not really. But his new novel, so this was preparatory because a friend of mine informed me that the sequel just came out this week. And, well, I can't possibly read the sequel. And I'm like, oh, no, I still haven't read the first one. And I've been meaning to read it. It's been on my to-read list for a while now, so I just checked it out from the library via their online digital library loans.
Overdrive or Libby, they have several different ones
yeah,
available.
It's Overdrive, but I think Libby is the app. I just download it to my Kindle.
Right.
Which is very handy. I don't have to go out and buy anything.
That's always good.
And I can usually find it, so our library has Overdrive, but then I can borrow not only from our library system, but there's also several other library systems in the state which I can connect to. And so I think there's 6 or 7 or 8 of them. And if our library system doesn't have it on their Overdrive, I can get it from somewhere else. And interestingly, I think I can do 6 checkouts a month from each of the individual library systems, like from ours and from the Boston and from the north of Boston and from the west of Boston. So
Wow.
I don't know that there's a limit to how many books
Potentially 30 odd books in
yeah,
a month.
more than I could possibly read. But they all have different collections. So I usually end up to find a book that I want. I usually end up going to 4 or 5 of the different ones before I finally track it down.
I'm going to have to think, like, I tend to read more newer books. Once in a while, I want a book that's older, but I'll look at it.
They have a lot of newer ones too, although sometimes
I want.
Sometimes you have to get on the wait list.
Yeah, I never see I've looked and I never see the ones that I'm like I want to read next.
But like I said, I end up looking at all of the different.
Maybe I need to expand my circle of searching.
Yeah, you have to hunt.
That sounds like fun.
It's a challenge.
Not. So,
I like the challenge.
That's good. That's good. Well, it's saving money. That's important. So so that's what we've been entertaining us. And I don't think there's anything else to bring up. I mean, again, we had the holidays, so things have been kind of. I mean, that's enough right there. So what are we? We were going to talk about. It's Sunday, so we're recording on Sunday, so we could talk about Sunday. But first, I want to talk about our parish. And I don't think I went back and just checked. I don't think we've talked about our parish before. In case we have, I apologize. You may skip ahead. And if
we haven't.
If it's old hat. But our parish, so we don't go to our geographical parish for reasons that I won't go into. Just it's
complicated.
It's complicated. A while back, the schedule changed. We couldn't make it the schedule that they had, and we ended up searching around and going to this parish in the next town over, the next city over. And it's a urban area where economically depressed, shall we say? I mean, it's a higher crime area than other places around, and that sort of thing. So it's what you'd expect of a city parish. But it's St. Edith Stein Parish, and there's a great story here because it used to be St. Edmunds, Edwards,
I think.
Edwards. I always confuse it with
the physical church itself is this beautiful
English
neo-Gothic church, and which fit because St. Edward was an English king. There's still a statue of him at the back of the church, by the way.
But 20 years ago, it was renamed St. Edith Stein Parish, and the reason for that is in order for a saint to be canonized, to be declared a saint, not only do they have to be an investigation into their life and their virtue and holiness, but there has to be 2 miracles attributed to their intercession. And these miracles are determined, they're examined at the Vatican by a panel, and the whole thing. And it's very rigorous. Well, one of the miracles for Edith Stein's canonization, for her declaration as a saint, took place within the boundaries of the parish of what is now St. Edith Stein Parish. A priest, a Byzantine Catholic priest. So he's not
Maronite Catholic.
2-year-old daughter got very sick. What was it? Tylenol, aspirin poisoning, I think it was.
She was, she got an overdose of Tylenol somehow.
Yeah,
and she was in the hospital. She was dying, and this child had been named Teresa Benedicta, which was Saint Edith Stein's name in religion.
She was a Carmelite nun who had converted to Catholicism from Judaism. And she died in the concentration camps. Right.
So this priest and his wife had read some books about her and really fallen in love with St. Edith Stein, or Blessed Edith Stein as she was. And so when their daughter was in the hospital and dying, they prayed to her for intercession. And the child was miraculously healed.
Right. And so then after the canonization, or I don't know whether it happened before or after, but they renamed the parish for St. Edith Stein. There is a relic, a reliquary there. It's just awesome to have.
And a beautiful statue of her out front.
Oh, yes.
In bronze. And so the priest, he and his family still live in Brockton. And we actually got to meet him, not Dominic, but the kids and I. A couple years ago, our pastor has him come and give parishioners who want to come and show up. And so I talked to him he gave a nice little presentation about going to Auschwitz where she was killed, talking about her spirituality. And it was very, very nice. And then I got to talk because he and his wife had homeschooled all of their kids. I want to say they had like 8 kids. And his wife was there and one of his daughters and a couple of his grandkids too. He was very, very nice and very humble.
Yeah. So it's neat for a third order Carmelite.
I actually got to go to St. Edith Stein's canonization in Rome.
That's why it's a big deal for us.
with my dad.
We kind of buried the lead there.
Right. I didn't know anything about her, but my dad was going to her canonization. His Carmelite community in Austin is actually the community in Edith Stein Teresa Benedicta. And so he, as a representative of his community, was going to the canonization with my mom. They got tickets for very close up seats, like prime seats. And so I learned all about her by reading the booklet during the canonization mass with another saint, of course, because the mass was said by Pope John Paul II, who's now also a saint.
Yep.
And so she's been very near and dear to my heart. She was an academic. She was one of the first women to get a PhD in philosophy in Germany, young feminist, and then became a Catholic convert and a nun. And she was a martyr who died in the concentration camps during World War II.
Right. And the fact that she was Jewish and converted to Catholicism means a lot to me, because my grandfather, and he married a Catholic woman, and my mom was raised Catholic. But I have that connection, family connection. And I was introduced to Edith Stein when I was in Steubenville. I was studying in Steubenville Franciscan University, and several of the philosophy professors, were very much in favor of. I'm trying to think of the term, but very much liked Edith Stein as a philosopher. So
personalism.
Yes. So it was very appropriate that Edith Stein Parish became our home when we were looking for a new home. And the nice thing about the parish is it's in the city, and there is a very large Haitian community. 30 is islands off of the coast of Africa where they speak Portuguese.
Yeah, they were colonized by the Portuguese.
Right.
We just read about that this year.
Okay. And so they have, in fact, it's the largest America. I don't want to say outside of Cape Verde, Brockton. And so the pastor is relatively new. He is Nigerian, from the SMA Fathers, the Society of Missionaries to Africa, but he's Nigerian. The one of the priests is always Haitian, and the other priest is always from Cape Verde. And Father Irinu was the Cape Verdean priest, but he actually
we're waiting for our new Cape Verdean priest to be appointed.
And we have a new Haitian priest here. The new Haitian priest is Father Dimitri, but previously to him was the aptly named Father Miracle. Father
Miracle was great. We miss him very much already.
Yep.
And wasn't there another priest before Father Miracle?
Oh, yes, Father Garcia.
Father Garcia was wonderful.
Yes, he's up in Cambridge, I think now. There's a lot of Haitians in the Boston area. There's also a very large Haitian community here. But it's so nice to be, for our kids to experience the universality of the church, the Catholicity of the church, all of these different cultures coming together in our one parish. And
very multicultural parish.
Very multicultural, and like they all have accents. Only the deacons have no accent. They only have the Boston accent. But
we even have a Haitian cantor.
Yes, yes. What was it? What was the song that we sang it today?
Come to the river.
Come to the river. But he sings it like "Come to the Reaver," which makes me think of Firefly, but in a very weird way. So Adabote, he's our pastor. He's so awesome. He's really amazing. He's really come in, with no hesitation. He really has this take charge attitude.
Right within a month of him starting last summer, he organized a Saint Day festival. We actually hadn't had one before, of Saint Edith Stein festival with a special mass and a gigantic potluck picnic.
Yeah, it was huge.
Complete with like the most amazing food, because everybody brought really, really great food, and bouncy houses and games for the kids, face painting, bubbles.
Father Michael's not shy about asking people for things and expecting them to do it, which is very different from a lot of American priests. Nigerian priests are different in that way, which is good. They're sort of take charge, and he has to charge. And so, but the one I want to talk about this week was Father Dimitri. He's from Haiti, and he was telling the story last week, and I'm trying to find last week's mass readings. It was the June 30th. It was for the 13th Sunday in Ordinary Time, and it was the yoked oxen, where Jesus sent messengers to a Samaritan village to prepare for his reception, but they would not welcome him there. And so the disciples, James and John, helpfully suggested, Lord, do you want us to call down fire from heaven to consume them? Like, Lord, we'd like to help with that. Jesus like, no, I don't think so. And so then they do the whole, Lord, I will follow you wherever you go. And of course, Jesus knows where he's going. He's heading to the cross. But there's this whole thing about yoke of oxen and,
because, the first reading was Elijah and Elisha.
Right.
And
right.
Elijah calls Elisha, and Elisha says, let me finish up plowing my field and say goodbye to my parents. And Elijah gets mad and says, what have I done to you? And Elisha says, okay, fine. And he kills the oxen and uses the
oxen.
all 10 of 12? 10? It was a huge number of oxen.
12 oxen.
12 oxen.
12 yoke of oxen, 24 oxes.
Right. So he kills them. He uses the plow to light a bonfire and roast them all and throws a big feast for everyone to eat them, and then goes off following Elijah.
And his dad's like, well, could you not just have left? Couldn't you just have gone and leave the oxen? Why'd you have to kill my oxen? So anyway, and then he was talking about Jesus talking about foxes have dens and birds of the sky have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to rest his head. And then he says, follow me. And someone says, let me go first, bury my father. And Jesus says, let the dead bury the dead, and so on. So Father Dimitri was talking in his homily about this, and he said, during the earthquake in Haiti, was that 2005, 2010 or 11? His family, all of his uncles died, and his uncles' wives, and I think most of their kids. Like he said, what did he say? Like 20 some odd people.
17, I think.
It's like 17. 19? Some very large number of his family died in the earthquake, and Father Dimitri's response to that was to say to God, I give you my life, I will follow you. And he entered the seminary. I mean, that's remarkable. I mean, and that was 2010. Father Dimitri doesn't look all that young. I mean, that's only 9 years ago. So he can't have been ordained for very long. He had to have been older when this happened. In his 20s, late 20s, early 30s. It was my guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so he looks older, but I was like, wow, like this priest experienced this tragedy, this tragic event. Some people would have retreated. Some people would have yelled at God and blamed God. His response is to say, Lord, you've taken away everything else. I'm coming to follow you. I'm giving everything I've got left to you.
And evidently that's led him to Massachusetts, so he's not even in his own country anymore.
Right. He has been stripped of everything and sent forth, like the disciples who, as we hear in today's readings, were sent out with one cloak, the cloak they're wearing, no extra sandals,
no money bags,
and go where I send you. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. I mean, these are some interesting, amazing priests that we've got, and I think we're very lucky to have them. I mean, we could talk a little about today's gospel, but I think that's okay, right?
Yeah.
I think we've said enough for today.
Besides, people might figure out that I don't actually remember much of it because I was really kind of falling asleep.
Well, we did talk about the readings on our way to and from. One of the things we do is Melanie reads the readings to the kids before on the ride to church, so that they will have heard them once already. Right, and then they will hear them again, and so they won't be hearing it fresh and in the church for the first time. So it's a nice way, and then we kind of talk a little bit about the high points of what it is before they hear the readings or the homily. So it's a useful tool that we do. So, all right. So I think that'll do it for us this time, I think. So just again, I want to encourage the listeners. We're so grateful that you're out there listening. We've been here. I've heard from a few people already about how you listen, and some couples that listen together, that this is the thing they listen to together. We're really appreciative of that, and we're really grateful. We'd love to hear from you, your response to what we're having to say. If you've got any insights or commiseration or just comments, we'd love to hear it. So let us know. You can do that by going to either sqpn.com/bets. BETTS. You can go to the SQPN Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or you can leave feedback as a comment in those places, or send us an email to bets, BETTS, @SQPN.com. And then you can find any relevant links we might have to some of the shows or books and that sort of thing for discussion on our show notes at SQPN.com. Again, I want to suggest and encourage you to share the podcast with friends and help us grow this audience. We're really encouraged to see how the audience is growing week by week, and that's only because people like you share it with someone else and share it on your social media and that sort of thing. And if you can, go to iTunes and write a review of the show. What do you think? And when you write a review, that helps get the news out, and it encourages iTunes, the Apple Podcast Store, to show it to more people in the computer algorithm, however that works. So we really appreciate that. Until next time, I'm Don Bettinelli.
And I'm Melanie Bettinelli.
Thank you for listening to Raising the Bets on StarQuest.